Chapter 33. Is there a reason you said Antony just now? Lord Felix asked, and the bottom dropped out of Eji's stomach. Oh no! Lord Felix was looking at him so strangely. There was a reassuring little smile on the god's face, but the lines around his mouth were tight with strain, and his eyes had a suspicious sheen in the torchlight. What have I done? My lord! It was far too late for names, too late to pretend to be good. Fuck! I ruined everything! I'm a bad offering. Bad offerings get punished. It's going to hurt, and I'll break down and beg for mercy like I always do, and that will only make it worse. He'll get rid of me, and... It's all right, Lord Felix soothed. Please don't be afraid. You're all right. Eiji couldn't keep his eyes from the god's face. Even through the veil of his own tears, he could see that Lord Felix's expression had changed a great deal in the last few seconds. His master's trembling smile had firmed up, and the sheen had cleared from his eyes. It's all right, the god repeated. I'm not angry, see? Not angry at all. I just want to help you, sweetheart. Breathe for me. A command! Eiji seized on it desperately. He drew in several long breaths, dizzy with gratitude at being permitted to obey. Good, murmured Lord Felix. That's good, Eiji. Keep breathing. Do you feel your shoulders? Try to relax them for me. Good. Now relax your hands. He kept talking, his voice low and calm as he walked Eiji through more and more body parts and told him to relax them all. His cool skin was as soothing as his voice, leaching all the terrified heat from Eji's own body. In the end, Eiji was breathing normally and only trembling a little, naked in his master's lap. Better? Lord Felix asked at last. This was the bad part, the part Eiji had dreaded so much. He was going to be ordered to speak. He and his master were going to talk about what had happened, what he had done, and there would be no avoiding it. Yes, my lord, he whispered. The god's cool skin was no longer soothing. If Eiji had been a good, loyal slave who could keep things straight in his own stupid head, he could have earned this kind of tender closeness. He could have been cuddled as a treat after finally providing sexual service. Not that he had actually done much in the way of servicing, but he had been obedient and his master had taken pleasure. Those were the pertinent details. Instead, he was being held and comforted to prevent another breakdown, and he didn't deserve any of it. Please, my lord, may I kneel? He managed. Lord Felix's arms, which had been holding him in place, dropped instantly. Eiji missed the sense of being enfolded, controlled, held, but he didn't deserve that either. If that will make you more comfortable, go ahead, the god said. Eiji slipped from his master's lap and pressed himself into the deepest, humblest prostration he could manage. He kept his fingertips just a few inches from Lord Felix's feet, longing but not daring to touch. Your servant has no excuse, my lord, he murmured, tears beginning to leak from his eyes to disappear into the carpet below. Please punish me as you see fit. I welcome discipline. I beg for it. Please, my lord, please let me atone. I don't want to punish you, sweetheart. There was a weary, unhappy note in the god's voice that turned Eji's insides to water. I've finally done it. I've convinced him not to waste any more time on me. No more kisses, no more soft words and conversations, no more baking together in the kitchens. He's getting rid of me. Of course he is. Who would want a useless idiot slave that only causes problems? A slave is supposed to make their master's life easier, and I've done nothing but cause trouble and upset him, and now I've proved that I can't even perform adequately as a fuck toy. No one would keep something like that around. Eiji opened his mouth to say he understood, to thank his master for the time he'd already wasted on his unworthy offering, but that wasn't what came out. "But please don't get rid of me," he wept, hating himself even as the words poured out. "I'll do anything, my lord, anything, I swear. I'll do better, be better, but please." Why would you even want to stay here anymore? The dull misery in Lord Felix's tone was more obvious now. I'm clearly not what you want, and you made yourself... I made you touch me anyway, and I didn't even realize, and... Please, my lord! Eji's voice broke over a sob. I did. I've wanted you to use me for so long. I never wanted to use you, the god cried. How could you think... Lord Felix stopped and took a few breaths, deep enough that Eiji could hear them from his place on the floor. He stayed still, not daring to interrupt again. This is worse than the song. I've never upset him this much before. What can I do? What can I say to fix it? Sorry, his master said at last. It's not fair to blame you. I knew that was how you saw things. I just hoped today when I thought... But you were just saying what I wanted to hear. What I've told you over and over again that I wanted to hear. He's right. He told me what he wanted so often, and I just ignored his clear wishes. He should get rid of me. There's never been such a worthless slave. Eji's tears fell faster. I'm sorry. I know I should have obeyed the first time, but I was afraid. I'm not saying that to accuse you, Eiji, the god groaned. I was accusing myself. I knew you weren't comfortable saying my name or telling me what you wanted, and I kept pushing anyway. I was behaving inexcusably. Eiji knew he shouldn't argue, but this was too important to keep quiet. He needed to make his master understand, to beg for his place. I displeased both of my masters by being stiff and stuffy, and it needed to stop. My lord was kind to be patient with me, but I couldn't bear to disappoint you the way I disappointed... He stopped, unwilling to say his old master's name again. All of this had happened because he said that name. Antony, Lord Felix finished for him, and for the first time there was a hint of anger in his voice. Did he say something to you? No, Eiji whimpered, quailing a little at the sound of his master's displeasure. When I brought the meal for the attendant, they were hugging. The attendant had picked him up and spun him, and they were celebrating because his master had decided to keep him forever. Oh. After that, Lord Felix was silent for a long moment, while Eiji tried desperately to slow the flood of his tears. What will I do when he gets rid of me? Will Zenji take me in? Or will he be angry that I upset his friend? Where could I go? Lord Felix and Zenji are the ones who give out the places. I can't even be thrown out on the streets to beg. There are no streets. What will I do? That must have been an upsetting thing for you to see, Lord Felix said at last, and his tone was so gentle that Eiji almost dared to let himself hope. I'm sorry you were shocked like that. No wonder your head was full of him. But why didn't you just tell me? Your servant shouldn't have been fussing over any other god's doings, replied Eiji quickly. It's not my place to worry about them or what they do with their own attendants. Lord Felix shifted in the chair. You lived with Antony for 6 years. Of course it matters to you what he does. You know I'd never expect otherwise. Eiji did know that, and he needed a better excuse. I shouldn't worry, my lord, with my pointless thoughts and emotions. Your thoughts and emotions are not pointless, Lord Felix said firmly. You know how important they are to me. What's the real reason, Eiji? Why didn't you just talk to me? Because you wouldn't have used me if I had! The truth burst out in a tight, anguished voice Eiji hardly recognized as his own, accompanied by a fresh flood of tears. He curled miserably on the floor through another long silence. I wanted to be close to you and make you feel good out of love, the god said at last, and Eji's breath hitched at the horrible past tense. I never wanted to use you. I didn't want to be used either. I told you at the beginning that I would be happy with many kinds of relationships, romantic or sexual or both or neither. But I see now that I should have been clearer. I need honesty and communication. I don't like meaningless sex, and the thing that makes it meaningful for me is trust. If you needed to be reassured of your place here, I could have found a way to help. If you just needed a fun physical distraction from something that upset you, I can't promise that I would have done what we just did. Not when it was our first time together, but we could have at least discussed it. Lord Felix was doing exactly what he always did, and what Zenji did too. He was talking about their relationship as if they were equals. It was so frustrating, Eiji wanted to scream, but he still had enough control not to go that far. Please, my lord, I don't understand, he cried instead. Forgive your useless slave, but what do you mean? I was trained for the physical part of sexual service, but not all this. I'm not asking for your service. The words fell like an order of execution. This is it. He's made his decision. I've lost the best master anybody ever had, and it's all my fault. Please, Eiji croaked, hating his inability to accept his master's decision gracefully as he should. I'll do anything you want, my lord. Be anything you want if you'll just keep me. I'm not sending you away, Eiji. The god sounded unutterably tired and sad, and through the haze of his own fear, Eiji felt a pang of that strange, tender feeling. But this time it hurt. You never have to leave these rooms if you don't want to. They're yours as much as mine. Relief and confusion and the strange, painful tenderness tangled together and loosened Eji's tongue. He was so tired, so worn out from work and sex and fear, and he just wanted to understand. I can't own anything, my lord, he said, and his tone was more pleading than he had expected. I am owned. I'm yours, body and soul, and I can't own the rooms, and I don't understand why you need trust for sex when using me is no different than using your hand. I don't understand how something you own could make you so sad. He caught himself just before he said could hurt you. That was presumptuous and disrespectful. But he was also beginning to suspect that it was also true. You're not a thing that I own, Lord Felix said fiercely, his voice sharper than Eiji had ever heard it. You're a person like me. There's no real difference between us. We both think and feel, and we both deserve autonomy. Eiji couldn't hold back a horrified gasp at the blasphemy. But you're a god! Bullshit! The profanity was so unusual, coming from Lord Felix, that Eiji shut up at once. You don't have to obey me just because I'm older and can't go in the sun. Or is it because I'm bigger, stronger? Of course, big, scary Felix. Have to appease him or he'll hurt you, just like always. His master cut himself off, seeming to realize how tight and upset his soft voice was getting. He continued more calmly. Listen, there's no reason in the world for you to do what I tell you and keep your face on the floor like that, even when we're having a serious discussion. We're both adults. I don't know better than you. I know you are raised to see things differently, but... The god gave a frustrated sigh. Eiji heard the chair creak, then some soft padding as Lord Felix walked away on bare feet. Eiji didn't really expect him to come back, but a moment later the steps drew closer and something soft and warm settled over his naked, trembling body. A blanket. There was another creak as something heavy dropped down next to him. It took Eiji a moment to realize that his master had settled on the floor at his side. I didn't want to keep towering over you, the god explained. If you need to stay like that to feel safe, that's all right. I think I've learned my lesson about pushing you on these things. But when you're crying at my feet like that, it scares me. Of everything he could have said, that was the most unexpected. Scares you, my lord? Eiji faltered. Lord Felix sighed again. Yes, it scares me when we're talking about something important and I can't see your face to know whether I'm frightening you or hurting your feelings or... He gave a soft, bitter laugh. But then, I'm not as good at reading you as I flattered myself I was. I hate that I didn't see that you were hurting, Eiji. I should have just known. But I was so happy I just blundered ahead and took advantage of you without giving your feelings any real thought. And now here we are. No wonder you felt used. He sounded so miserable that Eiji forced himself up, just a little. He pushed up on his hands, lifting his face from the floor, though he didn't feel quite ready to kneel back on his heels yet. I didn't feel used, my lord, he whispered, not daring to meet his master's gaze. I had no idea it could be like that. So slow and kind and good. I felt good. I felt important, even though I wasn't worthy of such efforts. Of course you are, Lord Felix said miserably. You deserve love and pleasure and every good thing in the world, Eiji. I'm sorry I was so clumsy in my efforts to give it to you. Eiji was going to be allowed to stay. It was better than he could have hoped for, better than he deserved after such a colossal fuck-up. He shouldn't push for more. But Lord Felix kept using the past tense, and it frightened him in a different way. Not a fear of punishment or expulsion, but something else, something more, something that made him feel uncomfortably open and vulnerable, which was foolish. The god owned him and had just had his dick in his hand. How could a simple question make him feel more vulnerable than he already was? Still, Eji's voice shook as he ventured, Was, my lord? Am I not... Do you no longer wish to... Lord Felix sighed. I need some time, Eiji. I feel hurt and upset, and I don't trust myself anymore to recognize how you're feeling. But of course I still care about you, and I'll talk to you and everything. No more kissing or courtship. Not right now, anyway. Eiji bowed his head obediently. It's better than you deserve, he snarled at himself. You have no right to be upset. It's not even a punishment, just a removal of privileges. It's no different than if your master revoked permission for you to wear jewels or read books or attend the game nights. It felt different, though. It felt like the loss of something he had barely begun to understand, let alone value properly. And as he looked at Lord Felix's tense, wretched face, Eiji despaired of his chances of ever earning it back.